Hello. This week we are going to make something for Valentine's Day. I know Valentine's is not till next week, but this way, if you see it now, you can make it for next week. It's a fruit pizza, but it's done my way. Not quite as much substance to it, but still really good. There are no eggs. It's got flour. I do have plant-based butter, and then eventually plant-based cream cheese we'll put on here in a little bit. But first of all, we're going to make the sugar cookie. The sugar cookie, you need 1 1/3 cups of flour. I usually use this little sifter gadget whenever I put in my baking powder and baking soda because it gets clumpy. If you eat a clump of baking powder or baking soda in your cookie, you're going to taste it, or at least I do. So I like to make sure it's not clumpy by putting at least a little bit of the flour in here, and then the other stuff to make sure we don't have any clumps. So here's 1/2. In 1. And then I'm going to use 1/3 cup of flour. Put it in my little sifter. And I want 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. This is what I said gets clumpy, and you don't want to eat a piece of baking soda in your cookie. It just does not taste good. So there's my 1/2. And then I just need 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder in here. The baking powder I get off of Amazon, and it is aluminum free baking powder, because who wants to put extra aluminum in your body? Not me. So I've always been, since I've been baking and trying to eat more healthy, I've bought that. So then all you do is sift this to make sure that baking soda and baking powder gets not clumpy, and it's all gone. So all good for that. So I'm going to I've got that basically mixed up now. I'm going to put my flour up, because I always like to put things up as I go, so it's not as big of a deal when you get done. It's not as big of a mess. So next I'm going to take my Country Crock plant-based butter, 1 stick, which is 1/2 cup. I'm going to put this in my KitchenAid mixer. I had it setting out for about an hour to get room temperature. The thing about plant-based butter is it gets softer a lot faster than real butter. So keep that in mind whenever you are cooking, that you don't have to set it out quite as long, because it will end up getting almost too smushy. So I got my 1 stick of butter in there. Now I'm going to put in 3/4 cup of sugar. Take off that. I have this on my KitchenAid mixer because it mixes a lot better. I bought that extra one to go. I don't ever use one that actually came with it. And I want 3/4 cup of sugar. So 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to turn that on and let that start mixing up, because you want your butter and sugar to get very mixed up in there. And plant-based butter doesn't get as fluffy and airy as real butter does. If you're using real butter, you do it even longer on letting the butter get airized kind of, and it'll make a better texture cookie. But I do let that go for a little bit, just like that, just to make sure it gets all mixed up real good and gets as much air as that butter can get. While that is happening, I'm going to turn on my oven to 375 and let that preheat. I'm going to fix my parchment paper on my little cookie pan. This is a 10-inch cookie pan. It makes the perfect size for the amount of cookies I am making, dough I'm making today. Of course, fold it into 4ths, if not even another time, so that you can make it into a circle a lot better, because I don't want it to stick to the pan itself. So you get it folded, you stick it in the center of your pan, You can kind of see because of where I've been cutting it. And then you're just going to cut around. That makes where I'm going to put the cookie. Now I've got that done. Next, we are going to make the egg substitute. About any cookie thing you can do, you can use this egg substitute. You want 1 egg or the egg substitute, which is 2 tablespoons of water. I have my reverse osmosis water I always use for everything. So there's 1, 2, and then we need 1 tablespoon of canola, or I used to use canola oil. Now I use olive oil because I don't like the taste of canola oil anymore. I've gotten too used to using olive oil. So 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Put that in there. That makes kind of the egg white liquidy stuff a little bit. And then to that, you add 1/2 tablespoon of your baking powder. Again, I use aluminum free. This is actually 1/2 tablespoon. I don't know if many people have that. This is something I've had for a long time, and it's very convenient because then I can actually measure it. I'm at the end of my aluminum free baking powder, so I'm having to really scrape a lot out of there. But I don't want to waste it because it's, not the cheapest thing in the world. So now I have my 1/2 tablespoon of baking powder. Stick that in there. And then I'm going to mix that up, which that will dissolve all of the clumps you get from it. And the baking powder, I haven't really noticed as it making the food taste funny if there's clumps. It's just mainly the baking soda. When baking soda is clumpy and you stick that in cookies, you are going to taste it, and it's not going to taste very good. That's kind of how you tell the difference between somebody that knows how to make real good cookies and who doesn't as much. So I got that all mixed up really good. I'm going to show you what my butter mixture looks like now. See if you can see. That is what my butter mixture looks like. It's all kind of like nice and white and fluffy-ish. And then I'm going to add in the rest of the stuff now. It's been going by itself long enough. I'm going to add in the egg substitute. And get all that in there. Now I'm going to add in vanilla. I make my own vanilla extract. This is a maple syrup container. What you do, I actually bought some the other day because it was on sale. Buy this off of Amazon. It is vanilla beans. They are Madagascar vanilla beans, grade A. They were on sale the other day, but what you need to do is get these vanilla beans. You take them out. They're vacuum sealed. You can kind of see them there. You take them out and you cut them into pieces, stick them in your container, and then buy vodka. Go and buy vodka. I buy the Smirnoff vodka just because it's not very expensive. Stick that in there. I actually even just use the bottle that it comes in and stick that in there. Stick your pieces of vanilla in there. Put it in your cabinet. Shake it up every once in a while. 2 or 3 months later, it's ready to use. So the longer you go, the better it is, because you can see kind of there's little pieces of all the vanilla beans in there because I've cut up the vanilla beans. Makes it even that much tastier. That is also what makes cookies really, really good. But until then, if you don't have any of that, you can always just use your own, buy some vanilla extract. But for the vanilla extract, I'm going to need 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm going to put that in there too. Kind of put almost a whole teaspoon in there. But the more vanilla, the better, especially on sugar cookies. Makes it taste really, really good. So 1/2 teaspoon to maybe a full teaspoon of vanilla is great. Now, after that, I'm going to put in my flour mixture, which is the flour and the baking powder and baking soda. So I'm getting that put in there. If you have Alpha-Gal, you have to watch what flour you use. As I've said before, I use King Arthur flour because it is not enriched. You can't have enriched products because enriched products has vitamins that are derived from the mammal sources, so you can't do that. You have to have plant-based butter because you can't have dairy because dairy comes from mammals, so I use the plant-based butter. From what I can tell, the vodka with the vanilla extract is just fine. Some alcohols are not just fine. I think most alcohols are just fine, but that's the only alcohol I really buy. Since you only use a little teaspoon at a time, it doesn't seem to give me any problem. I kind of looked it up, noticed that they say it should be safe. But use what you looked up to know it's safe. Okay, so I got that all in there. That's going to mix up now, and that's pretty much all that my batter is. I am going to let that mix up for a few minutes. Make sure it's all done. It's pretty good. I'm going to put it on this pan and cook it. I'm going to bake it for 8 to 10 minutes. Once it is done cooking, I will let it get out and cool. Once it's cool, then we will come back and we'll do the toppings. But let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. Get all the flour. Sometimes flour will get on the top of your mixer beater thing. Then you got to turn it back on once you get all the flour off. Now you can do this without a KitchenAid mixer. It's just so much simpler to make cookies with a KitchenAid mixer because it does all the hard stirring work for you, because they tend to get pretty thick. And if you want to make this for actual sugar cookies, you would probably want to double this recipe, because then you will have more to be worth your effort. It does make very good sugar cookies. I end up just getting a little cookie scoop and making small cookie scoops, so it makes small, easily bite-sized cookies. And they are very good too. They're very sugary tasting. So got my mixture. There's my cookies. So now I'm going to stir it, give it one more stir, make sure everything's mixed in good. And then I'll dump it out. And I've washed my hands. I'll use my hands to spread it out on there better, because it really doesn't, it spreads some, but not a huge amount. So, but this makes the perfect amount for a 10-inch cookie. It works very good. So I usually do a few dollops here and there, so it's easier to spread out if you've already got it kind of spread out. There's still some in that pan, but I'll finish getting it out when I know where I need to put more. So yeah, just kind of use your fingers. One thing that I have done with this sugar cookie recipe, which is kind of weird, usually there is a little bit of salt in these things, but this one doesn't have it, and I haven't missed it, so I don't put any salt in this recipe. I got it out to use it, and I forgot this is one that you don't use it for. But yeah, so work with this till you get it all spread out and very even, because it doesn't spread a whole lot. I mean, it spreads a little bit on its own, but not a whole lot. You want it all the way over there. Okay, so I'm going to finish spreading this out, and then we will come back after I cook it. Cook it 8 to 10 minutes, and then we'll get it out of the oven and see what it looks like. Okay, so I only have 30 seconds left. I've put it on a 10-minute timer, and you see it's starting to cook really good, but it still needs a little bit longer. But that's what it looks like when it's cooking. I'm probably going to cook it probably about, let's say, 2 minutes longer and check. It does need to be a little bit light brown and toasty, so I'll come back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so I added even a couple more minutes to it, so now it's been a total of 14 minutes. So if you look at it, there you go. It's now looking brown and toasty. It had one really big bubble in it that I popped when I was twirling it around. If your oven's not real even, you might want to twist it around once when you're cooking. But yeah, here is what it looks like. Beautiful. So I'm going to now let that cool. As it cools, it will kind of flatten down a little bit, except for on the edges, to make it more like a pizza crust look anyway. But yeah, it's nice and brown, and now it's going to cool for an hour or so just to get all the way cool before we make any topping. And that's how it is. We'll come back here in a minute. Okay, I am back. It has been a little bit. I cleaned up the kitchen, cleaned up all the dishes from the original stuff. My sugar cookie has now cooled. I even put it in the refrigerator for a few minutes just to make it cooler. But after we get done, we'll put it in the refrigerator. Now we're going to make the cream cheese topping. So because of Alpha-Gal, I need plant-based cream cheese. This one is very good. I cannot buy it around here. So therefore, if you go to the city or you go somewhere else that does have it, that's where you need to buy it. You can always buy me some if you're there and bring it back. But yes, this one is what tastes really good. It's got kind of a tangy taste, which actually almost tastes better than regular cream cheese. If you are not Alpha-Gal sensitive or dairy sensitive, feel free to use real cream cheese. I would use a third less fat Philadelphia cream cheese and actually do the brand name cream cheese because it has less preservatives and other gunk in it. If you look at the ingredients, Philadelphia cream cheese is the way to go if you're going to eat real cream cheese, and do the third less fat. So I'm going to take off the lid of this. This I just took straight out of the refrigerator because plant-based cream cheese is not as hard as regular cream cheese. If you're using regular cream cheese, take it out of the refrigerator a little bit earlier, probably about 30 minutes before you want to use it, because that way it can soften. This one, there's a cream cheese. I'm going to put this in my mixer. And I guess it is still a little hard. My little soft thing wouldn't work. So I'm going to add this to it. There, perfect. Clean as can be. Okay, so I'm going to then just turn this on with my paddle and let that mix for a second. Okay, after that we are going to add powdered sugar. I just need 1/4 of a cup, or no, I guess I need 1/2 cup. This is 1/4. I'm going to do 2 of these, so 1/2 cup of powdered sugar I'm going to add to that. And then I'm also going to add vanilla, my same old vanilla I put in the cookies. I'm going to shake up, and that way you can get some of the little vanilla bean little things in there if you can. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract in here. So there's 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And let that get mixed up some. And then I'm going to put that back in my cabinet. Now I'm going to do the powdered sugar. Powdered sugar and regular sugar to me is easier to deal with in 1/4 cup measurements. Just because it's smaller, it's not as messy, although it's always messy. But I'm going to do 1/2 cup total, so I'm going to do 2 of these 1/4 cups. Put 1 in there. Let that mix for just a second. And put the other one in there. Now I'm just going to get that mixed up. Once it gets mixed up, I'm going to put that right on my cookie. And then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for a little while. It is having a little bit of a time getting mixed up. I'm going to turn it off, scrape it, because there's not a whole lot in here right now, because I only used 1 stick, because we only do have 1 10-inch cookie, so you don't need a whole lot of cream cheese. Getting that mixed up. Okay, so let's get that turned back on again. So we'll be right back once I get the mixture put on the cookie and show you what that looks like. Okay, so here is my cream cheese mixture. I'm going to turn it off so you can see it better. It is getting to be pretty much equal consistency. It was kind of clumpy there for a little while, but I've done it. I mixed it enough now that it's not too bad. So here in a minute, I'm going to take that out and put it on my cookie. Okay, so here's where I've taken it out of the stuff and just lopped it on there so that way you can kind of see the consistency of it. And now I'm just going to spread it all out over this 10-inch pan of sugar cookie. Mine's still a little clumpy. It kind of does that with the cream cheese, but it still tastes really good. This plant-based cream cheese actually has a little tangier flavor than regular cream cheese to us, because I've made it with just their less fat Philadelphia cream cheese, and it's good. But it actually, in my opinion, tastes even better with this, their plant-based cream cheese. They're both really good. So go out and buy you just some regular cream cheese, especially if you live over here by where I do, because you can't find this. But if you ever go to the city and you have it and you have cold stuff you can bring home, buy you some of that and make you some. So got this, and then after that I always store this in the refrigerator because cream cheese needs to be kept cold. So store this in the refrigerator. Right before you need to eat it, go ahead and put your fruit on there. I usually cut up strawberries, put pieces of strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. Those are the best ones to put on here. I have a little mixed fruit container that has also pineapple. I've never done that. I'm going to do that today and see what that tastes like. But use your pizza cutter to cut it and then just enjoy. So here's that. We will add the fruit to it. I find that I don't add a ton of fruit because I want to taste all of the flavors. I want to taste the cookie, which is a very sweet, sugary sugar cookie. As you know, some sugar cookies don't have a whole lot of sweetness to it. But yeah, I want to taste the sugar cookie. I want to taste this cream cheese. So if you overload it with fruit, it's not very balanced. And that's just fine. If that's what you like, go for it. Put as much fruit as you want to on it. Or even just, if you want, spell out Happy Valentine's Day on it. Do whatever makes y'all happy. But I have found that it tastes a little bit better if you don't put a ton of fruit on it, so therefore you still taste your cream cheese and you still taste your sugar cookie. So here shortly, I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. I'm going to cut it up and eat a piece. Okay, so I have now put my fruit on there. I just had a little fruit cup that I was able to get that you can just buy, a little mixed fruit cup. It's got some raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, pineapple. I've had it for a few days, so I vacuum sealed it, so I made sure it was still good. That's why my pineapple has some red to it. It has soaked up some of the strawberry juices. But you'll see I don't put a ton of fruit on there. I usually put it maybe a little bit more, but that's just all I have. But if you put a ton of fruit, you don't taste the cookie and the frost and the cream cheese mixture quite as much. You just put enough on there that it all blends together. It puts the perfect amount of sweetness and tartness with the cream cheese and crunchiness of the sugar cookie. The sugar cookie is relatively crunchy because I do not put the egg in the sugar cookie. I use the substitute for the egg, and so it really makes a good base for this fruit pizza. So I'm going to cut it up into pieces and then show you. Okay, so I've got my pizza cutter. If you don't have a pizza cutter, this is a great pizza cutter. It's very easy to cut with your pizza because you put the pressure on the top. So if you need a new pizza cutter, I highly suggest this type. I don't ever take it apart and put it in the dishwasher like it says. I just wash it right away because I used to have another one and I took it apart and it ends up breaking a lot faster. So I'm going to cut it into pieces. And feel free to make as big or little pieces as you like. I usually cut this 10-inch one. I'm going to cut that to 6 pieces on each side, so 12 pieces total, because it is pretty sweet. And so you don't need a ton of it. Of course, you could eat the whole thing in one setting, but you don't need the whole thing in one setting. So if we do, you cut it in fourths and then cut the fourths into 3 pieces in each fourth. Makes it about right. You can't eat this as leftovers. Just always keep this in the refrigerator. So this, and since I put it on parchment paper, it's a lot easier to get out. So there is the texture. See how it's got about the same amount of thickness as cookie, the same amount of thickness of the cream cheese mixture, and then there's a little bit of fruit. So it is nice and crispy. When you eat it, it doesn't fall apart. And that's what makes an amazing dessert.